Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Make It Good. I'm Alex, and today I want to share with you all of the Blu-rays that I picked up from Vinegar Syndrome during their Halfway to Black Friday sale. So I wanted to get this video out a little bit earlier, but unfortunately just life was cropping up in the way. I had to pick up shifts because people were getting sick at work. But no worrying about that now. I've got it, I'm sharing it, here we go. So the first batch of Blu-rays that I want to share with you are all of the partner labels. So let's go ahead and get into those. The first ones I've got to show you were from Yellow Veil Pictures. I've got a couple of them that I really enjoyed from them. This first one that I picked up is Calvaire. Was really throwing out some major Misery vibes to me. You know, we have the main character whose van breaks down and he is ended up held hostage or held captive by this like really deranged innkeeper. Just looks really interesting. I definitely wanted to check that one out. The next two that I picked up are both from the same director. This is a director that I've recently been kind of very fascinated by, and that's Wojciech Haas. The first one is The Hourglass Sanitarium. This is a boy going to the, a son anyway, rather, going to visit his father in this sanitarium, and it ends up being very surreal and very strange inside. Time has no meaning in the sanitarium. From different things that I've read online, it seems that Terry Gilliam may have been very much inspired with a lot of the look that he does to his films, particularly like Brazil and things like that of that nature. So I was definitely interested in checking that out. The other Wojciech Haas film that I ended up picking up is the Saragossa Manuscript, which takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. And you have a soldier who, meets these different people and all of these different stories that end up entwining. Just sounded really fascinating, so I definitely wanted to pick that up. All right, I picked up one film from Utopia, and that is For Madmen Only. This is a documentary focusing all on Del Close, who, from my understanding, was kind of a godfather of comedy, particularly improv comedy, and just influenced all of these really major comics, comedians, comedic actors. And so I very much wanted to check this out and see what it is. I've heard his name crop up in so many interviews before, and so I wanted to see this sort of dedicated documentary to him. The next two movies that I picked up were both from Gunpowder and Sky. The first one was Kid Candidate, and this one I went back and forth on. I wasn't totally sure whether I wanted to get it or not, but ultimately, I started looking into it a little more and just kind of getting fascinated with sort of how much of a game that the political process has become, but also just playing into how people are just getting frustrated with old, tired candidates. So ultimately I did end up wanting to get this, plus the slipcover was getting really low in numbers, so I definitely went ahead and picked one up. The next one that I picked up from Gunpowder and Sky is Her Smell. This one was completely off my radar. I ended up just sort of stumbling upon this one and decided to start checking out. And really it was very much a vibe and aesthetic, especially musically, what with the soundtrack and everything. And so I decided this feels really up my alley, even though I know very little bit about it. But it's also one of the slipcovers, the hard case slipcovers with another slipcover underneath. Which I love. I love the little extra steps that they go to. And I was kind of surprised that we got one of these for the partner labels. So that was cool as well. Okay, the next Blu-ray that I picked up from Connie, and that is Bullets Over Summer. This really just looked like a really cool, I don't know if it's a Hong Kong film. Yeah, it doesn't say specifically on the box anyway, whether it was a Hong Kong film or not, but it just really looked like a really awesome kind of new crime movie. So I wanted to check it out. I love the artwork on this slipcover, especially that front. I just something about this artwork really does it for me. It was one that as soon as they announced it, I kind of kept my eye on, but finally decided to jump the gun and get it during the sale. So the next film is kind of a funny one. This is one where more serendipity was driving my actions rather than the movie. I kept hearing this movie brought up everywhere, like either in articles or, if I was stumbling down a Wikipedia hole, there this movie was. Heard it in various videos of, people talking about different films that they may pick up during the sale. Or even like when I was going through catalog of older videos, suddenly this would come up, or, discussing different actors. So finally I'm like, okay, this has been swimming around my head so much. So from Dark Star, I picked up Private Chat. Really looks like an intense sort of thriller film. I don't know too much about it. I know, we have one character who's a sex worker and another character who, kind of gets obsessed with her on, sort of webcams. And yeah, I just want to check this out, see where it goes. But it does look pretty intense, but that is Private Chat. All right, next up, I picked up a film from TVA Films, and that is Minefield with Michael Ironside. Michael Ironside's one of these actors that I just sort of really focus on him in any movie he's in, whether he's playing a heroic character or a villain, and he's so good at playing a villain. But this was a movie of his I'd never heard of, looked really cool, looked very science fiction-y, so I decided to pick this up, give this one a check when I'm kind of feeling in the mood for like a really random science fiction movie. I picked up Minefield. And the last film that I picked up from the partner labels is a Decalogue film. This was one that I actually had written off a few times. Nothing particularly against it. I just sort of was like, nah, I don't know that that's for me. And that movie is Air Doll. So this film I just kind of wrote off. I was like, it kind of seems like it's just sort of a weird, maybe sex comedy, that kind of thing. But then I started looking into the film a little bit. Actually, I was looking into films from the director because I was going down a Wikipedia rabbit hole. And I did not realize that Koreeda had actually directed this film. Which then really made it catch my eye, and I thought, maybe, you know what, maybe I should give this one a second look at and give it a chance. So, looked at a few reviews. Some were mixed, but generally it was looked on pretty positively. I also looked at it seemed to be based off of a Greek tale that I wasn't too familiar with, and so I thought, you know what? Let's go ahead and give it a shot, and so I picked up Air Doll. All right, so that does it for all of the partner label movies that I picked up during the Halfway to Black Friday sale. Everything else is a Vinegar Syndrome proper film. We got a huge pile here to go through, so I'm really going to try to run through these. The first one is a Vinegar Syndrome Labs picture, and that is Flesh and Fantasy. Oh my God, like when they kind of brought this out, at first I wasn't sure about the artwork on the front, but then when I realized it was like a movie from 1943, I think, and it was a very early anthology film, I knew I had to check it out. It's got some supernatural elements to it, looks like some thriller elements. It's also got Barbara Stanwyck in here and Edward J. Robinson and a whole host of other actors. So definitely this jumped to very high on my list, and here it is, I got it. All right, so the next film that I want to show you is one that I had never heard of before checking it out on the website, but it had two leads in there that I was interested in checking out, and that is Sister Sister, which stars Eric Stoltz and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Jennifer Jason Leigh, it's a very Southern Gothic film, but Jennifer Jason Leigh is this young woman who, feels trapped in this home with her sister, who is kind of her warden. Eric Stoltz's character kind of comes in and kind of seems like he might be her knight in shining armor. There's some secrets, everyone has secrets in this movie, and it's a really kind of interesting look to the film. So I wouldn't call it a perfect film. I did have some minor issues here and there with it, but overall I enjoyed it. It was interesting. I at least wanted to see where the movie went. So that was Sister Sister. The next film I was very interested in because it sort of loosely ties into, or unofficially ties into, the Night of the Living Dead movies. That movie is Flesh Eater. This was directed by Bill Heinzman. He was the first zombie that you see in Night of the Living Dead, and he went and wrote and directed this film. It turns out his wife and daughter are also in this film, so it became kind of a family affair, which is pretty cool. Very, very kind of low budget, schlocky 80s film, but it was a lot of fun. So if you do like low budget schlocky 80s, check out Flesh Eater. It's a lot of fun, and the ties with Night of the Living Dead make it really, kind of an interesting prequel and then sort of side story that's happening at the same time as that first movie. If you want to consider it canon, that's up to you. All right. There aren't too many martial arts films in the. Well, no, that's not true. There are a lot of martial arts films in the Vinegar Syndrome catalog, but there's not too many like wuxia films. And so this might actually be the only one that's in there, and that is Burning Paradise. I just checked this out the other night, and holy crap, this movie is awesome. You have the soldiers that are going out and attacking the Shaolin monks all across China, and so they're on the run. And a young Chinese or a young Shaolin monk ends up meeting with a sex worker, and they get captured and brought to this prison, and it's like this intense prison that no one can escape from. Even the guy running it, who is one of the scariest villains in a lot of films that I've seen, even he doesn't know the way out because the whole place is booby trapped. And oh my God, like the choice, I'm not gonna ruin it, but the choice of weapon for the warden, the guy like running the place, I've never seen that in a movie before. It was amazing. But yeah, check this out. Can't go wrong. Very, very violent, very, very gory. But it was just a whole lot of fun to watch. So that is Burning Paradise. It was great. This next one is actually, I was in the same mindset when I was picking up that wuxia film. I wanted to get some Westerns, and I found, of course, that there was a 2-pack, and that is the 2-pack of Hot Snake and Guns and Guts. So Hot Snake was a really cool movie about a bounty hunter who picks up a bounty, it knows about this bounty, this guy who's like this real villainous character, and they're like, you need to go get him. But he goes out to this mystic in the desert, and she's like, no, don't. Like, this is going to mean your doom if you go get him. But ultimately decides to go after the guy. And where that doom goes is really interesting, like all the foreshadowing and the prophecy that she makes. It was a little slow in the first half of the movie, but the second half really picks up. There's some interesting, weird, creepy Edgar Allan Poe vibe type stuff happening in this movie. I really, really liked Hot Snake. But Guns and Guts was a real solid film. I enjoyed it, not quite as much as I enjoyed Hot Snake, but you have two guys that are hunting this one other guy, this third guy who they were wronged by. One of them's a mystery. The other guy was just like, he framed me. And they meet up with this gunslinger who's just like the best gunslinger, but he's also just kind of a womanizer, philanderer, gambler. And then there's like twists and turns and backstabbing and double crosses and all kinds of stuff. That was a lot of fun to watch. And then just crazy shootouts and everything. But great couple of Westerns if you want to check them out. The next 3 films, or the next 3 releases, I should say, I picked up because of one actor and one actor alone, and that's Donald Pleasence. If you've seen some of my videos, I've mentioned him before. He's just one of these guys that I want to try to see as many of the films he's been in. And it turns out Vinegar Syndrome's got a lot, and I still don't have everything that Vinegar Syndrome offers that he's been in. I'm going to run through these real quick. And so the first movie is Nothing Underneath. And it's a dual pack with Too Beautiful to Die. These look like kind of sort of influenced by the giallo, film genre. I don't really know much more than that. I just know that he's in Nothing Underneath, so went ahead and picked that up. The next movie that Donald Pleasence features in is an Edgar Allan Poe, probably loosely based ripoff, and that is Buried Alive. So this looked like kind of like a straight slasher movie. Interested to see what Donald Pleasence plays in this film. The next release that I picked up that features Donald Pleasence is actually the Cardona collection, which has 3 different films by Rene Cardona Jr. But the first film, Treasure of the Amazon, is the one that has Donald Pleasence in it. It's also got 2 other films, Triangle, The Bermuda Mystery, and Cyclone. Guns and Guts, that I mentioned before, the Western, was also directed by Rene Cardona Jr. So I definitely want to check these out and see how they hold up. The next two films that I picked up, the first one of these two movies I had seen a long time ago on HBO or something when it was first released, and that is Freeway. And then because I was picking up Freeway, I went ahead and picked up Freeway 2. But I did actually love how the artwork sort of matches in both of them. And I like the idea that, you know, it's sort of this like kind of urban fairy tale, like riff off of these popular Grimm fairy tales. So that's why I picked them up again, because I wanted to check them out again. And the next film that I picked up, I did watch because I was very interested in sort of the Kill Bill connections. I'm sure some of you already know what I'm going to bring up, and that is Thriller, A Cruel Picture. And holy crap, this is a cruel picture. You have a mute girl who ends up being forced into sex slavery, and it is very in your face. For those who are not in the know, there's unsimulated sex. There's a lot of violence. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is while the kind of the references that Tarantino took for Kill Bill are very obvious, I also kind of felt like the villain in here was very much the inspiration for Hans in Die Hard. You know, once you think of that, you can't stop looking at it, and that was definitely the case here. Overall, I did enjoy the movie. Some of the parts that were a little more uncomfortable were a little cringy, not sexy at all. Like, it's definitely hard to watch in some of these scenes. But, you know, overall, I enjoyed the film, and I enjoyed her progression once she finally takes control of her life and decides to take her revenge and get out of the situation. You know, that was fun, but yeah, getting there is a little rough. It's a little hard to watch, but so, you know, make your choice wisely. The next film is an absolute classic. I don't need to go into it too much. I just wanted to make sure that I had it on my shelf. That is, of course, Amityville Horror. Fantastic, classic horror movie. Can't wait to watch it this Halloween. Next film is another one that I'm going to take the slip off of. A lot of people have talked about it. That is Don't Open Till Christmas. I got a movie that I was ready to watch for Halloween. Why not have a horror for Christmas? There's plenty of them. I've never seen this one. Heard a lot of mixed things. Some people really don't like it. Some people are like, yeah, it's cheesy, but it's fun. So I decided to check it out because it was on sale. So Don't Open Till Christmas. I did get the slipcover. I'm not showing you. You know why. But it is cool that the slipcover is a greeting card all the same. That was a cool touch. This next movie that I picked up is actually a Criterion film that is no longer in print. I honestly doubt that they're ever going to bring it back into print, and that is, of course, Paul Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein. It just says Frankenstein on the cover here. I just really like the packaging that they're doing, this sort of like deluxe packaging. It comes with two versions, Frankenstein 3D and of course Flesh for Frankenstein. It turns out there are a couple of classic red and blue 3D glasses that come with Frankenstein 3D, which I thought was really cool. I didn't know when I purchased it. I thought it was just maybe a different cut, but lo and behold, I might be able to see this in 3D. Like old school 70s 3D. But yeah, and I was really happy that they went ahead and they've put this out. And a part of me is hoping that they give the same treatment to the Blood for Dracula film that Paul Morrissey also did. They were like kind of like spine adjacent in the Criterion collection, but it would be really cool, like just to have this really nice deluxe sort of release on the shelf, you know, right next to each other. Maybe a little blood dripping down, something like that. That'd be cool. Anyway, so I picked this up. I started watching it one night. I immediately fell asleep because it was just a long day. Not because of the movie itself. It was just a long day, and I could tell right off the bat that some of the choices that are being made, acting wise and whatnot, very strange. Very. Probably purposefully. I mean, you got Udo Kier in here. If you don't know who Udo Kier is, and if you do know who Udo Kier is, yeah, you know kind of what you're in for. But a lot of strange, you know, kind of offbeat, slightly surreal acting choices, you know, which I kind of dig, but I think I do need to be in the right mood for it. I also am aware this kind of goes into very exploitation heavy places. I don't specifically know the scenes, but yeah, I ended up picking it anyway. I mean, if it was good enough for Criterion, it's probably good enough to check out. So there we go. I don't like that there's no label here because that's the way I would put it out on the shelf, but What are you gonna do? All right, so the last three movies that I picked up from Vinegar Syndrome during the sale are all VSUs. The first one is not your normal VSU. It's not in the big box, and that is the Beastmaster. I went back and forth whether I was going to try to pick this one up on eBay, try to find it cheap somewhere in the nice case, but ultimately I decided, it's already on sale. I think it was like 15 bucks or something, probably a little more than that, $18 maybe. But this was a movie that I grew up seeing on TV all the time, edited for television on like USA Up All Night, that kind of thing. And I've always this is a movie that's always kind of stuck in the back of my head as sort of, this film that kind of sits right alongside Conan. And so I watched it again the other night, and I had a blast watching it. It's so cheesy. It is so cheesy, but it's weirdly inventive. You got Rip Torn and John Amos in it, for God's sakes. The late Tanya Roberts is in it, and then the main character guy, who I never remember his name, but he kind of reminds me of like a poor man's Mark Hamill, which ain't a bad thing to be. So there you go, Beastmaster. Check it out. All right, the next two I did get are VSUs that look fantastic. I'm not going to go through them because I'm about to run out of space. But the first one is Cloak and Dagger. Oh my God, I had so much fun with it. I will show you real quick the fact that the slip cover ends up looking like an old Atari video game package. The DVD slip inside, the artwork looks like the cassette. Love that, very reminiscent of the golden era video that came out not too long ago. But this was just a lot of fun. Great kids in peril movie, which you don't see very often. And it was just a lot of fun to be had. And the last one that I picked, the last one of this video, is of course Roadhouse. This one I did notice has gone out of print and is sold out on Vinegar Syndrome site. They may hopefully put out a slipcover of it because of how fast it sold out. But I had shamefully never seen this movie. My wife and I had such a great time watching it, and much as we did Cloak and Dagger. And yeah, I mean, there's some really intense stuff in here. I love all of the stories that people are like, oh, that's what's his name, Dalton? They're like, that's Dalton. And like, oh, I heard he did this, and I heard he did this. And then you find out maybe that stuff is true. We'll see. If you haven't seen it, it's okay. You can check it out somewhere. But this movie, a lot of fun. Had a great time watching it. Sam Elliott, man, he was great in it. So there we go. Roadhouse, last one I got. So, hey, put down in the comments, any thoughts on any of these movies that I got, some of them I haven't seen yet. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on them. Hey, I'd love to hear what you got during the sale, if you picked anything up. But as usual, watch good movies, eat good food, take care of yourself, someone else if you can, and just try to make it good. Take care now. Bye-bye.